Welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis. On this episode, let me stop there. I'm Matt, and this is James. And I completely forgot that part of it. It's nice to be polite, isn't it? But we are back. This is season 11. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Batgirl. What went wrong? Where did it go? We're going to be talking about She-Hulk. What went wrong? Or did it? Is it okay, actually? And lots of other stories. But don't forget, if you like what we do, if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to talk to us and see us every single day because you love us this much, check us out on social media, which is Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And today we are, for the very first time, streaming on Twitter. So if you're listening on Twitter, welcome. Also, don't forget, you can listen to us on Apple. You can listen to us on Deezer, I found out this week. You can listen to us on all sorts of streaming services. But first, how about we listen to this?
Hello and welcome to This Week in Metropolis.
We are back for season 11. I can't believe it, Matt. Season 11. And yeah, crazy that we are now heading to our 100. Finally. I mean,
The countdown.
I did get a bit excited, didn't I? A couple of seasons ago, because I thought that was when we were hitting 100. But at the end of this series, we will celebrate our 100th episode, and there'll be more to come on that. We did touch upon it at the end of last season, but listen, there's plenty of time for that. Matt, we haven't been on the airwaves or on YouTube for a little over a month now, I want to say.
It is a month, which is why the intro was so bad, because I'm completely out of practice in
don't
public
be silly,
speaking.
Don't be silly. They know the standards that we set. So
the benchmark is low, so it's
Wow.
fine. It's fine.
It's not that bad. Come on, I thought you'd done a really good job, and we've mixed it up a bit this year. So
Exactly.
this year,
we haven't been away that long.
Yeah, but how you been? What you been up to? We have spoke briefly, but how has the last month been for you? Other than missing, obviously, doing the show.
Yeah, exactly. Missing this primarily above everything else. I managed to get through a week's holiday in Turkey, and I can hear myself talking. That's why there's a pause. I can hear myself as I'm speaking. Anyway, yep, a nice week in Turkey. Lovely sun, beautiful location. Thoroughly enjoyed that. You know, I love a project. I'm a man who loves a project, and I've been doing a project and I've not spoken about. Only with a select few people that would get the project as such, which is I've been building a Windows 98 PC. So using old parts, early 2000 parts, because they're a little bit cheaper. And some of the bits I've actually got boxed and sealed just randomly, like a 20-year-old graphics card that had never been opened. And install Windows 98 on it, and been installing like Office 97 and
my god! So is it? Have you actually got this working and everything?
Yeah, it works.
And is it a laptop or a desktop?
No, a desktop. Yeah, I will share some pictures of it for anyone who cares. But yeah, it's all old stuff, fully working, usable computer, and surprisingly usable. Like, you'd think we're used to Windows 10, Windows 11. You'd think going back that far, it'd be really different, but it's not that much different. And it runs well because it's on decent spec stuff. You could use it, literally could, as an everyday thing. You probably wouldn't want it, but
no. I mean,
a good bit of nostalgia.
You do love a project. I saw that. Am I right in thinking you've just revamped a watch or something like that as well? I saw on your post.
My Pops watch.
Look at that.
I put a battery in earlier, so it's actually ticking now, which is awesome. But it is in a bit of a state. But I've owned that since new, and I recently dug it out in the loft. But yeah, I absolutely love. I've got a soft spot for Pops watches.
Well,
Definitely.
for anyone that doesn't know Matt, he is a big fan of watches. I mean, I remember you just giving me a watch years ago, because you've got such a collection of watches. So it doesn't surprise me that you've
But
taken to sorting out
the
your watch.
reason for that, though, is more that my wife used to work for Fossil, which is a watch
Mm.
company, and we accumulated a lot of watches. So, yeah,
Mm.
I've got a carrier bag in the loft full of them.
Thanks.
They're sitting there.
We'll
There you go.
we'll start gifting them to
We'll start
for
doing
our
giveaways for
competition.
anyone. For every subscription, you get a watch. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Imagine that. Well, I also went away only to Norfolk. Nothing exotic like you. I'm not rich.
It's the podcast money, mate. It just keeps coming in.
Oh, did you not? Did you not tell me about that?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
it's
awkward,
awkward.
isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, I went away with family. That was good. And yeah, it's just school holidays have just flown by, haven't they? It's just mad. The kids are back today, so it's a double celebration. Kids are back. Podcast is back. Everyone's happy again.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Is the
indeed.
thing. Tomorrow will be my first day without a house full, and it's going to be joyous. Like the birds will be singing, and
Yeah.
yeah.
They'll be able to sit down somewhere that isn't interrupted by kids running about and balls flying, balls as in footballs. And speaking of footballs, I know this is something that I've already noticed from the comments, which Phil, welcome, has mentioned about, are we going to have a football section on the show now because Man United are back? Well, funnily enough, Matt, I mean, me and Matt worked together for a very long time. Matt was never into football during that time. And now, since I don't work with Matt anymore, he has started to like football, in particular Man City. So I know for a fact that you're probably almost a little bit disappointed that we're doing the show tonight because Man City are playing at the moment.
I did watch the first 30 minutes of the game wearing a Man City shirt. That's where it's going.
Oh, I've just had a notification. Phil has unsubscribed to the channel. Well,
there you go. I'm becoming a bit of a football fan as well. That's sort of a project at the moment as well. Is that I'm getting quite into it, which is so unlike me. As James said, I've never liked football my entire life. I've never liked football, and my youngest getting into football and playing football and following a team. That's it. I'm in.
Maybe we need to do a side project of a football podcast.
I think it might spoil this podcast if it's about football. I think we should do a side podcast. Yeah, maybe.
Indeed. But what would you say over the past month are some of the kind of highlights of things that have caught your eye? There's been loads of obviously stories that have come out in the past month, and it's always the way when you and I do go on a break from the show that there'll be some big news story. Yeah. Indeed.
Well, one thing that didn't necessarily catch my eye, but I thought was a bit weird. Like is the only way. And I know you did a review of it. You did a 1 minute review of Lightyear.
Yeah,
and that was a film that I was intrigued about. And I'm a big Toy Story fan. I love it. I really like his character. And I just thought, well, where are they going to go with this, like, in terms of the film?
Yeah.
And I just thought it was like I sort of commended them partly for being a bit unique in terms of the approach of the story. And if anyone doesn't know, basically, it's the film that was made that inspired the toys of Buzz Lightyear. I think I'm getting that right. In that so it's the film that Andy would have watched and thought, I really want a Buzz Lightyear toy. So clever idea, but I just thought it was. I don't know. I sat down and watched it. I thought this is a bit. It felt like they took the life out of it for me personally. The experience. There were some bits that were okay, but I was just waiting for like Buzz Lightyear to make some jokes or just be Buzz Lightyear, but he wasn't. He was like, I'm serious, Buzz Lightyear, and I don't know, and the sort of the magic wasn't there for me. I don't think.
I agree, and also, I mean, I just noticed something there. Someone said about the cat, which was called Socks. I love the cat, but then surely there would have been a toy of that and that was never referenced, was it, in the Toy Story movie? So there was additional features in the Lightyear movie, even some of the villains, because you obviously had Zurg still, but there was
Yeah,
another
and
one as well that I think we never
again,
saw.
I like Zurg, like
Yeah.
from Story 2. I think he's a really fun character because, again, he's a bit, I don't know, a bit sort of slapstick, and in the way him and Buzz interact is a bit slapstick. Whereas in
Mm.
this, again, he was like a little bit too serious, and
Yeah.
yeah, I watched it and just ended feeling a bit like it wasn't. I hated it. It wasn't. I really enjoyed it. It was just like.
Yeah, I agree, and I'd
Mhm.
say yeah, it was an easy watch. I was pleased that it was based on that rather than that Buzz was a real person, because I'm sure I'd read somewhere that Buzz Lightyear was going to be a real person, and that's what the toy was based on. But obviously, the
Yeah,
film makes
that'd be
makes a lot more
weird.
sense.
Yeah.
But what I would say, I don't know if your boys have watched it, but my nearly 6-year-old, he really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
He thought it was really cool. He's got some of
I
the little
think
toys as well.
I watched it with my youngest, and where he's a little bit older, I think he was a bit like me. He was a bit like,
Mm.
what's this? One thing that you'd say that caught your eye, which is a very old thing now, or sort of quite an old thing. When we was in Turkey, and everyone's probably had this experience, you go to a foreign country and you have TV in your hotel,
Mm.
but it's often a weird mix of TV. And one of the channels that the boys would put on was Austrian Nickelodeon. But one of the things, some of it was in sort of German language and things like that, but they put so much SpongeBob on. And there was this
Mm.
period in the day where we'd be out and be at the pool or whatever, and then we'd come out like before dinner, come back before dinner, as you do, and to watch it. And I watched so many episodes of SpongeBob, and I was absolutely loving it. I was getting sucked in to SpongeBob, and I need to sit down and watch it all. So I was just laughing out
I
loud
mean,
to a lot of it.
I remember my little brother. I mean, there's 13 years difference between me and my brother, and I'm 36 now. So he's actually nearly 23. Quick maths for you there. But when he was younger, SpongeBob was one of his favourite shows, which seems mad now. But I remember watching
It's
it with
really
him,
old. I
and
think was it late 90s it came out, something like
yeah,
that.
but
Yeah.
I think what it gave me a lot of, I don't know whether there's any link to him, but like Ren and Stimpy, that's what it gave me, Ren and Stimpy vibes.
Yeah.
A bit tamer,
I'd
but
say
there's
Ren and Stimpy came out first. That was
yeah,
91.
yeah, yeah,
I've been revisiting that a bit as
loved
well.
it.
But it's setting a trend for things like SpongeBob, like the proper weird
Yeah,
sort of stories and things like that.
yeah. But it's funny
Yeah.
we're talking about kids shows, because one of the things that caught my eye actually, just, and I hadn't thought about it prior to you mentioning these, is that Bluey season 3 was had dropped on Disney Plus um, in the last month, and my kids absolutely love Bluey. And I think I've said it to you before. Bluey for me is one of the best kids shows that there is now, and the dad is someone who I feel like I look up to and aspire to be like. Yeah,
It's amazing where you learn your parenting skills, isn't it?
yeah.
From
I just think,
just, you know,
from some of the shows that you watch on CBeebies and all that, and as the kids are young, but like for this, I just think, yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. It's a great show.
yeah.
And, yeah, kids absolutely loved it. Before we quickly get into the main bulk of things that caught our eye, I just want to say a quick hello to some of the people that have kindly joined this evening. Already said hello to
Yeah.
Phil. Shane from Dawn of Comics is here. Hi, Shane. Isla's here. Hello, Isla. And we've just had Martin from Sonic's Comics. Evening to you all. Thank you for joining us.
Can I say
Again,
as well, Shane is a true fan because his attention to detail is great in the sense that he's noticed that if you're watching everyone, I'm on the left and James on the right. Normally it's the other way around.
well, it's usually because I'm usually logged in first. That's the reason that is. But
yeah,
today
that
it
is
was
exactly what it is.
actually
It
me
was
because I was
me.
busy
Yes.
watching Man City. Anyway, right. So one of the things that caught my eye, we will get into She-Hulk because I think that's a good thing for you and I to discuss, seeing as we've both watched it up to date to some extent. But one of the things that caught my eye, just a random story, and I thought, really, was Beverly Hills Cop 4. Now,
I've not read this, and I'm shocked at the thought of it. If I'm honest.
well, the first headline that I saw was that it's got a new title, which is Beverly Hills Cop 4 Axel Foley.
Right.
Now,
Which is really inventive, isn't it?
Well, this is the thing. Now, my memories of Beverly Hills Cop, I've definitely seen them. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you any character names. And Axel Foley, I feel like is a lyric in a song that I've heard in the past kind of decade. Where not Axel Rose, obviously. And I know exactly what you're talking about.
Axel Foley is Eddie Murphy's character. That's the name of the policeman, basically. Axel Foley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like you say, very original then. But the big news is that Eddie Murphy, right? Do you know how old Eddie Murphy is now?
I'd guess 60s.
61 he is now.
Yeah.
And there was an article that I read that he said he would definitely do another film, like Beverly Cop's film. But the script had to be right. And he'd said it time and time again. The script had to be right. This one apparently is. I think it's going to be a debut for the screenwriter or whoever it is who's doing it. The other news related to it was that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was going to be in the film.
Yeah.
Or should I say is. And Taylor Page, who I'm not familiar with. I don't know if any of the viewers or listeners are familiar with him. It's going to be on Netflix. So it's not going to be in the cinema. Netflix have got the rights to it. Do you know what year Beverly Hills Cop 3 was released?
I think it was, I'm going to say 1993.
Oh, so close. 94. When do you think the original and the second, the sequel, were relatively close together? When do you think?
The first was 84.
Correct.
And then I'd say the second was probably 88, maybe. I don't know.
87. So, again, 1984, the original. Even the fact that the last one was 1994, and we're now in 2022.
But they did it with Coming to America. I mean,
I was going to say it's not the first time.
And that was straight to Amazon Prime, wasn't it? I don't think they had a proper release. No, I think I saw about half of that, and that was very much playing it safe of, oh, here's this character you remember from the film, and oh, remember that guy? He was great. You know, it was very sort of going through the motions. But I don't know if you, well, you answered it a minute ago. You know, it's been a while since you watched them, but I remember being a fan of 1 and 2, and then not even knowing they did a 3. And then I think sort of at some point I bought a box set when HMV used to like really cheap DVDs at the time, and thought there's a third, and watching it. And the third is, I think, the boss. This is a spoiler, but no one really cares anymore. His boss gets killed, and he tries to find out who killed his boss. And it's just really, you can tell it's so low budget, and no one really cared about it at the time. And it's just, you just don't need it. I felt the same with Bad Boys. Like I loved the first Bad Boys. Bad Boys 2 was all right. But then the most recent Bad Boys, you just didn't need it. It was, it was okay, but why do you want to watch it?
We've seen this. I mean, I go back to things like, you know, Anchorman was like 20 years after, I think it was, that they'd done the sequel for that. We're seeing quite a few films now where they're making sequels, or, you know, a sequel to already to complete a trilogy and things like that. The Matrix is another one that's just come back round.
Indiana Jones, they did that, didn't they? Like Crystal Skull was so far after. He just looked like a granddad, and I think that's hard to get past with certain.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think Top Gun? I just see a comment there again. I haven't seen Top. Have you seen Maverick?
No, I've yet to see it, and I think I may have said this last season. I was so disappointed when the reviews were coming in that it was brilliant, because I liked the first one, and I you know, when you think, oh, it can't be good, you can't you can't do it one that far after and make a good film, and apparently they have. So, you know, even though I was, and my son was telling me, because he really fancies watching it, and apparently Goose, it's set around Goose's son, and I don't know whether you're familiar with the first one, and Goose was sort of his Maverick's co-pilot, and his son's called Rooster, and I was just thinking, it's a bit cheesy, isn't it? But apparently it works. Yeah.
Again, another one I've just seen there, Hocus Pocus. Do you remember the original of that? What a
I've
film
never
that
seen
was.
it. I know the film, but I've never seen it.
Bette
Bette
Midler,
Midler and so on. Yeah.
Sarah,
Jessica Parker.
Parker,
she in it? Yeah.
Again, I remember that growing up, a great film. But now we're talking probably 25 years.
Long
since
while
that.
ago. Yeah.
Do you think, I guess to summarize this whole part, do you think that there's much call now for going back to these? I mean, think about a film like, I don't know, Gremlins, right? When was the last one of them? If they brought out a new one of them, I guess you could get around it because it's the Gremlins, and they
can pop up whenever they want. Yeah,
you're not going to look at it and go, God, that Gremlin's got old. It's going to be a Gremlin. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but like you know, Phil said in the comments, these creatives need new ideas. They do. Why do you need to? I guess it's that mix of like they're just trawling the vaults for. Oh, that was mildly successful. We'll do another one of those. But also in the fact that the younger generation doesn't necessarily know the old one. So you know, the moaning old men like us are going to think, oh, well, I remember that one and it was really good, and you can't make another one. Whereas, you know, if you're 20 something and you've never seen Gremlins or whatever, you probably don't care. Like I think it's probably a good example of, I've not seen them, but that's been successful almost in its own right. And most people probably don't know it's a really old Stephen King book and it was a really old like TV series or whatever. So it's almost irrelevant with those ones, isn't it?
But do you feel like with a film like that, I think the guy, is it Skarsgård or something like that? I can't remember his name. The guy who played it.
Who played it,
or Pennywise.
Peter? Is it Peter Skarsgård?
Maybe.
Something like that. Yeah.
Pete.
Big
that
Pete
dude
did it.
He was ridiculous. I've only seen snippets of the film. I'm not a massive horror fan, but I know a lot of people that really like it. And it almost feels like a reboot. And I do feel like if rather than doing a Beverly Hills Cop 4, reboot it. Because the problem I think for us now, having seen the originals and knowing of the originals, if you now stick Eddie Murphy in, who's, 61, I'm not saying it's ancient, but it's not going to be the same. I feel like try and mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of them other films, like you mentioned there, have worked well.
Yeah. Well, just to finish this off, an interesting sort of reboot that I saw, which is taking an original thing, but sort of doing a little bit of a twist on it, is that the I don't know whether it's the producers or the creators who did Cobra Kai. And I think Cobra Kai has been quite successful in taking, like, we're not doing a Karate Kid, but we're going to take that bit of it and sort of run with that. And from what I've heard, people have enjoyed it. They're doing the same thing, but with Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And I think you said you've not seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
No, which is really bad because I think it's supposed to be really good.
You should. It is a good film. It was one that I think growing up with it, I loved it because there was that relatable factor of basically in the story of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's someone who hates school and he repeatedly takes days off sick. So he has to come up with these wilder and wilder ideas in terms of doing it. But there's two characters in it, which are apparently called... sorry, I'm completely unprepared. Sam and Victor. I don't think they had a name in it, but there's a bit. He takes his friend's Ferrari, or his friend's dad's Ferrari, and they drive into the center of Chicago in it. And there's a bit when they take it to a parking lot, and there are these two dodgy looking guys, and they're sort of like, oh, you're going to look after this car, aren't you? And oh yeah, of course we are. And then there's like a cut scene later on of them driving through the streets, and they're like going in the air in this Ferrari and having this wild time with it. They're doing a series based on those two guys. So there's such a small part of the film, but quite an entertaining part. But they're going to then take that and then make a series of it, and it's going to be called Sam and Victor's Day Off. So, but it'll be interesting to see where that goes, really, because it's, again, I think people could watch that and not even know where they're from. So it might be a fun thing to do.
Yeah. And just, sorry, as another kind of thing related to bringing something back, another headline I saw, and I don't think I mentioned this to you when we were planning the show, but did you see that Gladiators, the TV show, is coming back?
Really?
Yeah.
Someone will be behind that. That'd be great.
I'm really hoping they don't bring back all the old gladiators who are probably also similar to Eddie Murphy.
I've got Wolf. Yeah.
He's probably 80. But it's actually.
Are they going to have Ulrika and John Barnes? Is it John Barnes?
No, John Fashanu.
No, John Fashanu, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oga.
Yeah.
But it's going to be on BBC.
Absolutely in. Really? Because it was ITV before, wasn't it, I think?
It was ITV, and it's been over 20 years.
Didn't they bring it back, though?
They did on Sky.
But it was like, it looked like they were standing around a paddling pool. Like, it was really, like, compared to the scale before, it was like this really little set, it felt like.
You make it sound like it was Total Wipeout or something like that, but yeah.
Have you seen that? This is going off on a right tangent now. I can't remember what channel it is, but on one of the crappy Freeview channels, there's a Wipeout. It's Total Wipeout or something like that. But it's presented by your mate, John Cena. Does it?
Do you know?
Yeah.
I honestly thought you was going to say Dan Osborne there for some reason.
No. Better than that.
Yeah.
John Cena.
Wow. Well, I mean, there's so many of them Total Wipeout sort of show. Yeah. The one the kids love at the moment on Netflix is The Floor is Lava.
What's that?
Have you seen that?
I know the concept of The Floor is Lava, but I didn't know they made a show about it.
But yeah, so Gladiator's coming back. It's going to be 11 episodes in the series.
I'll watch
2023. Did you have a favourite Gladiator? Just to wrap this bit up.
Yeah, by far, Jet was my favourite.
Phil said Jet as well.
Oh God, Jet.
I actually quite like the blonde. I noticed we're all going for the females as well, lads. Come on. Was she called Lightning? Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, there you go. That's the first part of our show. Join us after this. That's right. We've now got a short interlude. That was shorter than I thought it was, Matt.
That was much shorter than I remember making it. So I think I might need to extend that.
Maybe. Yeah. Before we get into the next story, let's just say hello because I saw a couple of other people who have joined us. I did see Alex Moritz. Hi from Germany, Alex says. Hi, Alex.
Wow.
I also noticed Chris from Off My Shelves is here. Evening, Chris. Thanks for being part of our little show. I think that's it for now. There's probably some others in there. There's quite a few that I can see, but get your comments in if you are watching us live.
Give us a wave.
Give us a wave and we'll give you a shout out. Matt, what you got for us?
Let's talk. I think one of the very big stories that while we were absent was Batgirl being cancelled.
Yeah, huge.
Which caused such a stir. And I'll be honest, I'll put my hands up. I didn't really know a lot about Batgirl before it was all over the stories that it was being cancelled, to be honest.
She, just so you know, she's she's like a female version of Batman.
Oh, right. I sort of saw a resemblance. I can't place that. What does she look like? But yeah, it was. And the thing was, what I found with this story is when it came out, and I'll be interested to hear like the proper comic book fans who probably know a lot more about it. Is that it was almost sort of, and they cancelled it because it was rubbish. like was at first when this was starting to come out, it was cancelled because it was rubbish. It was a terrible film. They spent all this money on it, and they thought we're gonna walk away because it's not even worth doing it. Even though they'd spent, I can't remember the amount, but it's like
It's a
tens
lot.
of millions that they'd spent on this thing.
Yeah.
But what sort of came out afterwards, as the dust was starting to settle, was that one, I don't think the film was necessarily finished, and I know the directors had said they still had to do like the visual effects and things like that. But they were still doing screenings of it, and the people that were involved were watching it, and I can't remember what they called. They called like funeral viewings or something. I think they gave it the name of. But what came out was it was to do with Warner Brothers. It's Warner Brothers and HBO merger, was it? It's like
Yeah, I
two.
think so.
Oh no, sorry, Warner Brothers and Discovery
Right.
were merging, and what really happened from that is they were then looking at their books and thinking, how do we save money? And it seemed like Batgirl really just got caught up in this mix of things of we're going to get rid of it. And the statistic is 825 million worth of content has been shelved completely because of just cost cutting. So it's fairly ruthless in terms of it's just taking money off the bottom line. We don't really care what these things are, whatever we're getting rid of it.
It's mad, isn't it, to think that a company the size of Warner Brothers, and if it's a merger with Discovery, is that what they were doing? You'd think,
but I think Discovery owns a huge amount of stuff as well. I wasn't quite aware of it, but it's not just I haven't got the information here, but I don't think it's just like the Discovery Channel. It's like a big umbrella now of different things.
But you'd think that would bring in more revenue, like
More
or
revenue,
at
you'd
least
think
more
so,
funds
yeah.
to be able to put
Like
towards
Disney and Fox, like when that merger happened, it was like almost bringing together. We've got all this stuff now that we can we can put together rather than thinking of, okay, well, we're going to get rid of all this stuff. But there's loads of things in there. When you have a look, there was The Flash, the upcoming 9th season of the show, been cancelled. There was a Green Lantern TV series, which was going to be on HBO Max, which has been cancelled. There was Batwoman, which I've never watched again. After 3 seasons, that was cancelled. DC's
any
Legend
relation to Batgirl or
Mum. It's her mum, I
Bat
think.
Mum? Oh God! Well, you mentioned Flash then, because there was the whole saga with is it Ezra Miller who plays Flash in the DC movie universe?
Yeah.
He was caught up in some sort of scandal, wasn't he? And I think they had to pull on that
But I
movie.
think they seem to be pushing forward with that. I thought I
Are
read
they?
that they're still going to try and make that happen, which seems really odd.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But what there was a bit of backlash for, which unfortunately I haven't got the sort of info of it. But there was quite a lot of. I think what had happened is HBO in particular, like HBO was known as a bit of a premium thing.
Yeah.
Like you would get The Sopranos, for example, was on HBO, and you'd go there to get a like this big sort of expensive quality show. And I think wasn't Game of Thrones, was that originally a HBO one? Or am I getting that wrong? I think there's been a few that are on it, but I think that streaming service had been full of smaller things and like things that weren't necessarily as popular. So there's a big cull of old stuff as well, and people were getting really upset that there were certain old kids shows. I think there's some episodes of like Sesame Street and things like that that had been on there for years that were just removed completely without anyone sort of saying, all to do with this cost cutting thing. And I think the point I'm rambling my way to, the thing that made me very aware of is with streaming sites particular, you don't own anything. And we rely on, like, we go on Disney Plus. Me and you love Disney Plus, and it's great because they've got a load of old stuff on there, and there's stuff that you can find and think, wow, I haven't watched that in ages, and you can look at those bits and pieces. But at any time that can go, and you'll
Mm.
never see it again. And there are some shows that aren't even on those streaming things because there are arguments about like rights or music that's in it or whatever, and they're just banished to, you know, oblivion as such. Whereas before you'd buy a box set and you'd own those DVDs, and if you loved that show, you could watch it as many times as you want as long as you had those DVDs.
Mm.
We're quickly approaching a point where it can go and you'll never see it again. Like if you haven't got a physical copy of it, you'll never see it again.
Which is funny, isn't it? It's very scary to think of it that way because, like you say, there's things now that you see that you haven't got a physical copy of, and then one of the first things I remember watching when we got Disney, when we each got our Disney licenses individually, not shared. Guys, okay, if Walt, I know he's dead.
If Walt's watching,
we definitely don't share it. But one of the first things I watched was Cool Runnings.
Cool Runnings, nice.
And
One of the first things I watched was Doug. So yeah, so I'd never seen Doug before, and I love it. Yeah, it's
but
great.
Again, I haven't got a physical copy of Cool Runnings. You might have because you're a bit older than me. But
I'd never seen Cool Runnings until recent years.
wow,
my other half was a big fan of it, and she introduced it to me.
it's
So yeah,
fantastic film. But my point is, I've got a ton of DVDs and a fair few Blu-rays that I always consider kind of getting rid of on Music Magpie or other sites are available. But I always think I'd quite like to watch a lot of them again when my kids are older. You know, and not all of them.
it's true.
Because there's a lot of them that are probably rubbish now when you watch them back.
Yeah.
But still, I think, I don't know. There's an element of nostalgia there, isn't there? That we want to hold on to these things because we feel like they're valuable because we grew up with them. In that respect, there's like we say, there might be an element of personal. What's the word?
Just a personal connection to them.
Yeah, to certain films, characters, shows, whatever it is. Dawson's Creek. I've got all the box sets of Dawson's Creek. I bloody love that show.
Really?
Yeah.
I watched it. It's what made me love thingy. God, married Tom Cruise and then went crazy. Joey. Oh God, Joey.
What was her actual name?
I can't think. Joey. And I remember watching there was a funeral episode, wasn't there? In that, who died? I can't remember who died. That was proper emotional.
Someone died.
Yeah, I think
it was just a
good series. Series. But that's why, in my weird ways, like I've mentioned Plex before, there are certain things that you can't get anywhere. Like you can't get anywhere apart from piracy. And it's just a fact. You can't. They don't exist anywhere other than that. And I'm almost sort of, like you said, there are lots of films that I love or I've loved in the past, and you just can't find them. But weirdly, you can find them because someone has loved that film and they've ripped the DVD, and you can get it if you look and you know where to look for it. And I've discovered things like I read, like, follow different things on Reddit, or I'll see something on Twitter, or like someone will mention a show. And like one recently that I've discovered is a cartoon or an animated series from the 90s called The Max. And it's really odd. Like it's a really odd, was probably late night thing. Very few people saw it. And it's about, I'll try and explain the story. It's about this sort of purple monster that looks after this girl. She's sort of a young woman who's had an awful experience being attacked by this creepy person. And she goes to, no, not a kid's animation in the slightest, but and they have this sort of world that they escape to called the Outback. And it's just mental. Like it's not like anything else you've ever seen. And I've managed to get on a series of that and watched it, and it's just been a wild experience watching it. But you can't get that. Like it's not on DVD. It's not anywhere because it's such an obscure thing. And there are lots of films as well that fall into that category that no one cares about. But there might be a handful of people, like me included, that will think, "I loved that film. That was really good. I really enjoyed it." but I now have this sort of archive that I'm creating of these things, and I think I'm going to quote an article that I've not read, but I think the guy who created Gravity Falls said along the same lines, isn't it? You know, he's fine if people want to watch that show and it's not available anymore, get it how you can, because he would much rather people be watching it rather than it be just in Disney's cupboard somewhere and they're saying, well, you can't watch that anymore. You know, it's not worth it anymore, which is a real shame.
And interesting, I've just seen now, I don't know whether you were aware of this, but the Max, apparently, according to
It's
Phil
a comic
and Jane,
book. Yeah. I've acquired the comics as well, but I've not read them yet. But they're meant to be very, very good. It's a really dark thing. I was watching it, and the themes that it covers are really, really heavy. So you watch it, it's not a feel good thing, but the way it's done is spot on. Like they handle it perfectly as such. It's very, very serious, but yeah, it's a fantastic thing. It's well worth checking out. Definitely.
Interesting. Okay. Well, again, interesting stories as always here, brought to you from me and Matt. Join us again after this. Oh, we're back.
What I need to do, I'm going to do a 15-minute edit of that, and then what we'll do is say, "Well, we'll join you after this," and then just
we'll just pop out for a bit.
See ya.
Yeah. Before we do go into our next story, just to let the listeners and viewers know, next week we're going to be joined by two guests. We will have the pleasure of having Jay and Eli as first-time visitors on our show. If you don't know them already, they are the Super Bracket Bros. We've had the pleasure of being on their show twice. Fantastic show if you get a chance. They pick basically 32 fictional characters and put them into a tournament where they will have guests on the show to talk about if them two characters were to have a fight in a particular, or a battle, I should say, in a particular location, which are also picked at random. What would happen? Who would come out on top? What difficulties would they have? Really fun show. I mean, we've been on it a couple of times, Matt. What we'll talk more about them obviously next week, but any particular highlights for them for you?
I just think they are absolutely lovely guys, and they do something that they love, and it's such a, what I find is, and this isn't, it's going to sound like it's belittling what we do, but like there are lots of podcasts and things that talk about the things that we do in the way that we talk about it and adding our perspective and things like that. But the way that they've come up with that idea of taking the two characters, and it's not a case of, we sit there and talk about them fighting. It's like, right, okay, well, this character has this strength. And you talk about the individual characters at the beginning. You share your views on it. We did one recently, which was James Bond, and who was the female character out of Mirror's Edge, was the last episode we did. Which, I mean, it led to us I loved Mirror's Edge, and I'd sort of forgot about it quite a lot. So talking about that and talking about James Bond and what we loved about Bond or what we didn't, and it's a real insight into the individual characters. But then they allocate a place that they're going to fight, and the place that they were fighting for us, that episode was from Altered Carbon, wasn't it? I think was the Netflix show, which I've never watched.
There was a zero gravity in the middle.
Zero gravity thing, yeah, exactly. And they put so much thought into it, and it was quite. I'll be honest, the takeaway for me, especially when we were first on it, was quite intimidating, and it was intimidating from the point of view of James and I really do fly by the seat of our pants with a lot of this stuff, in that we do just do it like that, and we prepare to an extent, but it's not that scripted. When you go on their show, they send you an itinerary and like a schedule of the actual show,
links
and like facts and like research to do, and to see that sort of stuff, we was a bit like, whoa.
Basically, they're really good.
They are really good, so check it out because you'll love it. I know all the people in the comments will really enjoy it. So, and they're great
Yeah.
guys. They're really good guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll actually have the pleasure of seeing Eli in person for the first time
We've
next
never
week
seen him.
because
Yeah.
we've not actually seen him. We've seen Jay, so look forward to that next week. More guests on the horizon as well. We're working in the background on that, and I think we'll have some cool episodes leading up to the 100th.
Yeah.
Right, let's get on to She-Hulk, which there's been a lot of
Yes.
chat about. I know Mark
I
done a post
haven't
on it.
actually. I've
Sorry, go on.
not read a lot about it. I'll be
You've
honest.
not? Okay.
No.
I saw Mark actually done a post today, our good friend Mark. There will be question marks coming over the coming season. There's not one for today. He's back to work. He's a teacher, so I'll let him off today. But basically, he said, he can't understand why there's so much negativity surrounding it. I saw him at the weekend and we spoke, and I'll get your views in a minute, Matt. But for me, I said to him, I feel at the moment it's not grabbed me. I felt like the first episode was all right. I wasn't quite a fan of the kind of breaking the fourth wall. I feel like that's a Deadpool thing. I don't think we need to have more characters doing it. Deadpool, I just think with the way that character is, it works. Not
Yeah.
sure if Jennifer Walters' character necessarily works that way, where she's going to fit in longer term in the whole MCU. Who knows? I also thought some of the CGI was a bit poor.
Do you know what it
Um,
reminds me of?
Go on.
I keep watching it, and I was sitting there for a while in the first episode. So we was joking about this before. I've seen episode 1 and episode 3. I didn't see the second one, but I think that's enough for the moment for me to see. But I was looking here, I was thinking, this reminds me of something. Like seeing her as She-Hulk, I was thinking, man, this reminds me of something. I couldn't put my finger on it, and I thought, I know what it is. Princess Fiona in Shrek. That's what it reminded me of.
Wow.
There's just something about like the way she looks, and I was thinking, yeah, it's like Shrek. That's the sort of I don't know, like the feel of it, because it does sit in that what they call uncanny valley. Like it's not human. Like it sort of I'm not quite sure how it makes me feel with it. But I agree, the fourth wall thing, I just can't get on with that at all.
I from the first episode, I liked the way it explained how she became She-Hulk, but I also didn't, because I felt like it was very quick and it was very convenient. Now, in the comics, I imagine I've not read the comics, so again, some of our good friends in the comic book community will know more than I do. I don't know whether you've read any of it, but it seemed very, we're in a car crash with her cousin Bruce. His blood got into hers.
I
They
just thought
share
it
the
was
same genetics because they're cousins. I was just a bit like, really? Is that it? Is that all it took?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know how it happened, and before, again, I've not really read into it, and beforehand I was seeing the trailers and I was thinking, well, why is she a Hulk as well? Like they're related, but why? And that first episode, it was almost like, oh god, we got to explain why she's She-Hulk. Come, let's just get this out of the way. They're driving along. There's a spaceship. Oh my god, his blood's falling into my open wound. What a terrible accident.
What were the chances?
I'm She-Hulk now.
Yeah.
Sorted. Really? You're gonna base a
Yeah.
whole series on like almost like this throwaway scene of, oh yeah, she's Hulk now.
And I
That's
think
it.
I just saw a comment there from Phil, and this is what I love about these shows, and this is what I love about pop culture in general. It's everyone's opinion is perfectly valid, I think.
Yeah.
Mark is really enjoying it. Phil genuinely enjoying it. He said his only gripe is that the episodes seem a bit short. I completely agree. Completely agree. If you had an hour long episode rather than a 35-40 minute episode, I think you'd be able to do a bit more depth building for it all.
Yeah.
I've seen some people complain that they felt that, she was very quick to pick up how her powers worked, and almost show up Bruce.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't. It's not that I dislike it. Like I genuinely I like the actress. I don't know her name, who is playing She-Hulk. I think she's got I know there's a nice element to her character. Not I warm to. I think there are certain elements of that there that work. I like the fact that they've got Tim Roth's character
as Abomination
from the I can't remember the guy who was Hulk before. That crossover, I think that's quite interesting that Marvel are doing it. The thing that threw me though, and it's a really weird thing to throw me, is, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone sort of listening, the fact they had Megan Thee Stallion on that third episode threw me, because you never get people from the real world in a Marvel thing. And that
as a cameo of themselves.
Yeah, I thought that was really weird, because you're so used to this being like this bubble of where things are, and oh right, well he's there, but that makes sense. But then but I guess they're breaking the fourth wall all the time. But having a real person in
Celebrity,
there, and that working, I was bits of I don't quite know how this feels, but
I'm really pleased you mentioned Tim Roth there, because I think the Abomination thing is one of the plus points in the show. I really liked the cult scene where he was having his hearing and Wong's there. That for me was one of the highlights so far. And then they said, well, actually,
he's such
Wong,
a good character, though, isn't he? Wong, he's brilliant.
I'll have to tell you about him in a minute, because he just cracks me up. But the bit when he'd said, oh yeah, he broke Abomination out of the prison or whatever it is to go and do this fight or whatnot. And then the kind of jury were like, well, actually, Mr. Wong, and he said, Wong, you've actually helped break a prisoner out, so you're now liable. And he went, I need to go. And then he just left. I thought it was brilliant. But the guy who plays Wong, and again, I can't his name, I'm sure his name is something like something Wong anyway, because
I don't know.
He done a whole campaign called Wong for Wong, something like that. Because they were looking for someone for his character, an actor to play him in Doctor Strange, and he'd been doing a film with Benedict Cumberbatch, I think it was, and they said like, "Oh, you should do this." I'm sure that was it. I saw it in an interview, but he's a Brit. Obviously, with Asian heritage. If you listen to him talk, I'm sure he's like, he's not a Brummie, but if you listen to him actually talk in his normal accent,
interesting,
it's ridiculous. It just doesn't, you don't picture it with him. But anyway, I think he's really been a positive in it from that scene. That just cracked me up. The one thing everyone's looking forward to is when Charlie Cox is going to be in it, Matt Murdock, Daredevil. I've got a feeling that'll be in tomorrow's episode, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well,
I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think if it's on, I'll watch it.
Well, it's only on if you put it on.
Well, the 2 times I've watched it is when my oldest has said, "I want to watch She-Hulk." I'm going to put it on. I'm like, "Yeah, go on then," and we've watched it, and it's fine. But I end it feeling a bit. It's all right.
I think that's the thing. We're waiting for it to capture us at the
moment.
Yeah,
what's going to happen? Where are we going with this?
Wow.
Like, what's the thing that we're heading towards? Because it doesn't really seem like there's much of a thing to it, is there?
I agree.
But hey, I think one thing we should finish off on, which I haven't. Actually, there's one thing we should finish off on, because we have said it's actually going to be in this. So let me change direction. If you finish with She-Hulk,
I'm finished with it, mate. Get rid. No, I'm joking.
Just get rid of that. I'm gonna save what I was gonna say till next week, but because I've said it's in this episode, we've got to talk about a new game that is coming out.
Yes,
and we've had Untitled Goose Game, which is awesome. I love Untitled Goose Game. We've had Goat Simulator, which again, great game. Absolutely love it. But the one that really intrigued me that is being released, and I think you said that you saw about it, was Squirrel with a gun.
Indeed.
Yeah. I mean,
And I actually shared a video of it on our Instagram stories during our absence, because I saw it and thought this is not real.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like you think, hang on, what has someone just done some demo and it like added something to it or whatever? But it's a real game that you're a squirrel and you've got a gun.
I when I saw it, visually it reminded me of that Stray. Just because it's quite dark, isn't it? I think, and you obviously with the Stray game, that's the same again.
The bits I've seen, or the clips on images I've seen of it, are in bright sunny days though, because in Stray it's let me see if I can share a picture for the viewers. If I can find it, let me share this. There we go. So you can see it is literally a squirrel with a gun,
holding a
really big gun.
Really big gun.
And you can use this gun to threaten people, and I think you can nick stuff off the people, but you can also use the gun to move around. So if you've got an automatic weapon, you can point it downwards and it will lift you up in the air so that you can get over sort of objects and stuff like that.
Wow.
So yeah.
What's this going to be on?
It's going to be released on PC, on Steam. It's coming out on, but there's no clear release date as yet. I think the sort of clips that have come out are very much like production or sort of development stuff. That they released just to get a bit of buzz about the game, and I think they got a huge amount of buzz about it from it. One interesting gaming thing, which is reminded me just from talking about this, is that the Spider-Man game came out on the PC, and I don't know whether you read about this. It was supposed to be a PlayStation exclusive, and Sony said, "Well, it's only ever going to be on PlayStation," but they actually released it on PC. And what's happened since that has happened is the modding community have come in and they've enabled different things. They've taken out Spider-Man and they've put in different characters, so you can play as these different characters.
Seen this. Yeah.
And the greatest thing, everyone, like, if this sort of thing interests you, Google Kermit in Spider-Man, because someone's done Kermit like perfectly animated. So you're Kermit basically fighting bad guys in a Spider-Man game, and it is the greatest thing you ever see. Yeah,
I guess that is the benefit when they are on PC.
So
modders,
exactly. Those pesky modders.
There you go.
So yeah. Well, we come to the end of the show already. How about that?
Flown by. Episode 1 of season 11. Wow. It's been emotional. We're back for the next 10 weeks. Well, it'll be 9 after this one. So you know where to find us. There'll be that all listed in the outro, which we play in a minute. As we said, next week, Super Bracket Bros. We hope you can be part of that. That will be an exciting episode. And make sure you go and check out all the back catalogues still there. So if you want to listen to any of our previous shows, you can. Available on all platforms, including here on YouTube. Matt, thanks for returning.
Turning up.
It was a bit touch and go, but we made it, and we shall see you all next week.
I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as we did. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future episodes.
Yeah, and you can also follow us on all social media. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.